Okay, I'll stop mucking around. Yes, of course, that is my Atlas parody, and that was pretty much the last time we got really super hyped about an unknown announcement coming from Studio Wildcard, Grape Shot, whatever you want to call it. It was the Game Awards 2018. Of course, it's 2 years later now, and we're all expecting Ark 2 to be announced. Well, 99.5%. I'm going to explain why there is a 0.5% chance that we might not actually get the Ark 2 announcement, and it could be something completely different going through the history of Wildcard and Ark. So, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. The best in-depth historical Ark videos going. Yeah, I guess I'm an old dude now. This is all I can do. Let me take you through what I think about Ark 2 being announced a bit later on tonight. Studio Wildcard have tried a bunch of stuff over the years, and it all sounded pretty good. They tried doing Survival of the Fittest coming to the PlayStation 4. Back in the day, 2016, it was announced as coming to the PlayStation alongside PC, and we thought, damn, we're going to get some way to play Ark, even if the main game won't be appearing on PlayStation, because PlayStation don't really delve into early access too much. Alas, that ended up being cancelled, and we ended up getting the PlayStation 4 version of Ark come out only maybe a few months afterwards anyhow. But that was the last big time we had a project that was really tangible, that we could actually play, and it wasn't Ark, it was something different. Of course, Survival of the Fittest ended up getting cancelled completely. They stopped developing it altogether until some modders decided to try and take it up again, and most recently in October they tried to do 2.0 Survival of the Fittest. They've been backed a little bit by Wildcard. They were, I think, sponsored as part of the mod program for a little while too, but it turns out that Survival of the Fittest is pretty much a dead dodo. From what I saw from the relaunch, it looked exactly the same sort of game. Nothing really had been implemented to change or mix it up, and nothing had really been improved enough. No slight on the mods themselves. It's really hard to try and take on a project when it's been dead so long and you're not really getting enough support for it. I'm giving this a 0.1% chance of actually happening, that tonight we're not going to see Ark 2 announced. We'll see a Survival of the Fittest, a revamp or redo version. Survival of the Fittest simply failed because the developers would need a huge team to offer the kind of content you expect from games like Fortnite and PUBG, and they quickly realised even back then that they weren't just able to keep up with that kind of demand, and they didn't really know how to do monetization with skins and cosmetics and items and stuff like that too. And simply put, the game wasn't really that great after all. It was injected with a lot of money from China and Snail Games. They tried to make it an e-sport, but the game still took too long, and this was explained why it didn't really catch on by Jeremy Stieglitz in an interview a good few years ago now, saying that they just weren't really fully prepared as a studio to make that kind of game. But they did say they'd give it a chance to anyone that wanted to take it forward, and obviously they've tried their best this year, but no, it's not happening. Cool, this is really emotional going through memory lane for me. It's coming up to 5 years I've been covering Ark Survival Evolved. December, I think 22nd was my first video ever on an Xbox server, and I started playing it and started doing guides quickly after, and I was the first console YouTuber to do specific news about Ark Survival Evolved, mainly for console, but I did start branching out obviously into just general news for the game. Anywho, enough about my big head. This game, do you remember this one? Primal Survival. You young and whippy-snappers, you may never have seen this. It started out as an April Fool's joke where you could play as a dinosaur. Now we've got a mod. The mod is really popular. You've seen it played by people like Axeman. Great fun, lots of nice stuff going on there. They've been working on this mod a number of years, and it has been part of the sponsored mod program for quite a while as well. But it did start off as just a prank, literally using the command to hide Ryder. None of this trailer was actually any proper gameplay. It's all people literally just making themselves invisible, jumping on top of a dino. I've done videos and shown you guys how you can even do this on an Xbox or PlayStation. The only custom assets you can see here are things like these little nests, but that is about it. It was a project that never took off. It was meant to be done by the guys that actually made the Scorched Earth DLC. They helped port the game to Xbox, and they were the ones that were going to be making this as something extra, maybe to come out around the release or just before the release of the full game, just to give it a little bit of extra hype. And it was going to be a free mod, but that ended up being nope. It's still going now, it's still supported by the mod creator I do believe, and like I said, it's still massively popular, but as a game I think it would run into problems and being just a bit too boring. You need proper systems. We've seen in games like The Isle where that game's just a cluster truck as well, that's never really gone anywhere. You need proper systems, like whether or not it's migrating, sort of faction systems to help just make it a bit more interesting, and yeah, it never happened. They ended up cancelling it a little while later. So I'd actually still rate that though as like a 0.1.5% chance of actually happening. Can we get an F in chat for Primitive Plus, everyone? Yes, this is probably the saddest story of all. Primitive Plus, man, is my favourite way to play Ark. It was. I was hyped about this more than I was Scorched Earth when it got announced. Coming to Xbox, a free mod, the first time we was getting a console game actually having proper mods, although they weren't ending up being proper mods, they just ended up being ported over. But I was excited for this. I really wanted this to work. But over the years, it's been sidelined and sidelined. The Wildcard devs have officially said that there's not enough concurrent players to make it worthwhile, hence why they don't put any investment in it. They've not been very nice about this. They've only done this in snarky replies, or some of the developers anyway. Said the actual creator himself, he's tried his best. He's spoken to the community multiple times, seen what kind of interest can be generated maybe, and seen if there's anything he could do. But I think he's pushed back a lot by the rest of the Wildcard team, that there just simply isn't enough time, money or investment, and it's just not worthwhile. Bollocks, 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 and another bollocks for that one. If a player is not playing the game, maybe it's because you're not updating it, maybe it's because you've not given it enough love, maybe it's because you didn't actually devote enough development time into it. Game development is fickle. You've got to work out what's going to be long-term better for your projects, how much money it's going to generate, what's the kind of players, are they playing it, and obviously they'll have more data than I will. But going back to the hype and excitement and the interest that was shown anytime I mentioned Primitive Plus, it was still worth pursuing, but they left it too long. They didn't update the game, they didn't try even fixing some of it, and let it just die. There's many reasons I don't cover just Ark anymore, or I have never really done, or do it on a daily basis, or why I get so angry and pissed off. One of them reasons is because they do kind of neglect what I like about Ark, which is that primitive side of things. That's the way I like playing the game, that's the way I prefer playing it. I don't like Genesis, I don't like the extinction stuff where we had the mechs, I don't like futuristic tech, I just want to be going around stabbing people with a spear, maybe catching some fish and growing different types of crops. That's me. Yeah, it hasn't had proper updates in like 2 years. It's just broken beyond repair at this point. They should just retire it. They should take it off the menu and not actually have it as a game mode, since it doesn't actually work properly. It's almost bordering on mis-selling a product or mis-selling an idea of a game. If it's a game mode that isn't working, just take it off, and that stops anyone asking, moaning about it, and it just means that we know you've got better things to do. Rate that as 0.0.0.0.1% chance of actually being revitalised. And so in a roundabout way, I pretty much just debated you in a history talk today about Ark. What do I think about Ark 2 then? Obviously it's got to be 99.9.9% coming. Yeah, I guess so. At first I was like, nah, they're not going to announce a sequel when they've still got DLC to come. But actually other games do this as well. State of Decay got number 3 in the way, but we know that they're still working on the game. They're still doing stuff for number 2. They've been releasing updates and content patches for it still. So obviously it's not unheard of. There are plenty of other examples that I'm too lazy to go through right now, but I know it. There's lots of games that get announced, teases, and we still know they're working on other stuff. Good year ago now that Jesse Rapsat, one of the creators of Ark, the creative director, gave an interview talking about why they decided to make more DLC and not just go straight into Ark 2. And I've told you guys this before, I've done videos talking about this, but pretty much in a nutshell, they realised more people had bought Extinction than had bought Aberration and Scorched Earth. Basically 16, 15 million people, whatever the number was, there was still a shit ton of people still interested in Ark. If they took time away from Ark to go and make Ark 2, it probably would be about a year, 18 months before they can maybe get some early access version going again. So that is a long time to not really have any revenue. So why not actually increase your team and start working on projects a bit separately and a bit different? This is why we got Atlas, this is why we got the Genesis Season Pass content, and this is why we're now hopefully actually going to be seeing Ark 2 maybe come a bit sooner than people think. I was predicting maybe 2022, but on reflection and going over some of these interviews and stuff, I've come to realisation that yeah, they've been working on Ark 2 a while. I did an interview with Chris, the guy that makes the trailers at Ark, a little while ago, and he said it looked fantastic, but obviously he couldn't really elaborate a little bit more than that. Or he did say it was going to be fantastic. Maybe he didn't say it looked fantastic. I don't want to put words in his mouth. The podcast is there. You can go and check it out for yourself. Effectively, they've had one team working on Genesis, they've got another team that's been working on Arc 2, and that's pretty much the big wigs. Hence why there's such a big gap between Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. It's like over a year, and normally you kind of expect that kind of DLC to come out every sort of 9 months. It also explains why they do stuff like have the free maps like Crystal Isles and Valguero. It keeps the player base coming back for more. Like, I won't rag on Wildcard, they do a lot for free. Like, that is one thing I would say, keeping interest in the game, keeping you playing the game is really important to them. It's important to most game companies, and they do that really well with that mix of free content, even if it is broken and buggy, as well as the paid stuff. No problem with that. I just really want them to sort their lives out and do test servers. If Arc 2 does come out, it's the biggest gripe for me. Stop treating us like early access players. Like, when the game is fully fleshed out, stop making us look like mugs waiting for updates to fix something as generic and basic as an event. Like, I'll say it, there's lots of games out there that do events that don't have the problems Wildcard do because they have never invested in a proper Q&A team. Before any Wildcard members start crying their eyes out, yes, I know you guys all work really hard, but let's face it, compared to other studios with bigger player bases or smaller player bases than you know that the QA isn't as big or as maybe developed as it should be. Also doesn't help that Arc and all these things get done at the very last minute all the time. They're always up against the clock. They're always giving themselves big projects to handle and not enough time to actually do it. It's kind of bad management, and I'll keep saying that as well. I love what Wildcard do, the developers, on a day-to-day basis. I love that work that they actually really work hard to do, but their management is absolutely filled with dickheads. Maybe it's worked. It obviously has 18 million players, multiple different ways they could go. Do Arc 2, carry on Genesis, and even though Atlas is a shit show, there's still people playing it at the moment. So who am I to say it was wrong? But with sometimes the negative feedback that they get, sometimes I feel like Arc could be even bigger, it could be even better if they just actually manage their games and manage their pipelines a lot better. Arc 2 is coming. The announcement will be tonight. It will be a tiny little 30-minute tease. 30 second even. Oh my god, imagine if it was a 30-minute tease. When will we see it? I reckon we're going to see it at the end of the year of 2021. I don't think they'll wait too long. I think they'll wait 6 months, and it's going to be something completely different. If you go over lots of the interviews back from last year, they did talk about Arc 2, how they would want to make it different, how it would be a bit more linear, how they'd have to stop it carrying all that baggage. You're not going to be bringing your dinosaurs, you're not going to be able to revisit your base from Arc and take it to Arc 2. It is going to be something different. It still will be an open world survival game. I did delve into these interviews a bit more. They never said that they're going to stop taming or building, but they do want to make it different enough. So I would say that's going to be a refinement. Like, it will be very different how you tame, maybe a bit quicker, maybe complete different systems, but there will be some sort of taming system. There will be a building system, but it might not be as big as we've currently seen it. You can kind of look through some of the stuff they've experimented with Atlas and the huge grids. And then they took that and they put that in Genesis. When you transported around the map, that was pretty much the mechanic from going from one server to another in Atlas. So they've always been doing this, testing stuff out. So whatever we see in Genesis 2, expect to see a lot of that content actually probably put into Arc 2 too. No, they tested missions. They did this in Genesis 1 to see what kind of reaction they would get, and maybe most people said they didn't like it because it interrupted too much in the open world. It was boring having to do a mission over and over again because you keep getting eaten by some dinosaurs that are interrupting you or some troll players. So they've decided to move that for Genesis 2, and that's going to be its separate game mode. There will be missions, there will be little quests you can do, but they're going to be transporting you to somewhere else completely. I fully expect that mechanic to continue in Arc 2. There will be more missions, there will be that structure a little bit more. They're not going to make it suddenly a first-person shooter, but I do really predict a lot of the stuff we've seen in Genesis, a lot of stuff we've seen in the game experimented with Atlas, all that is going to culminate in Arc 2, and I'm down for it. They cannot add anything more to Arc. It's filled to the brim with just loads of nonsense. It's too many maps, too many items, too many bugs. It needs a fresh start, like nothing. Don't bring over anything from the original game. Start all brand over fresh on a brand new engine, a whole team behind it, really working hard. Do early access if you want. I mean, I hate the idea of that, I do, but nevertheless, it does mean we get feedback from players about where you want the game to go. But yeah, that's what I want. I want them to just jettison Arc 2. It's got too much baggage. The reason the game is so buggy and broken is because it's just too bloated. They can't just simply go and do TLC on it because it breaks one thing, it does the other. Hence why every single little event update smashes up the game for Xbox or PlayStation users, because it's just too bloated, it's too much going on. I don't blame them, the game is huge and complex, these games are, so they need to just get rid of it all, start brand new afresh, and I am totally down for that. I might even get my enthusiasm back for this game. I'm not too fussed if it ends up being real dinosaurs or whether or not it's going to be all just new creatures, whether or not it's going to be electronic or bionic creatures. Well, yeah, maybe I will be a bit pissed off. It's just that. It is definitely more about the technology, like relying on bazookas and stuff I don't like. But you guys let me know. What is it that you want to see in Ark 2? Go and check out Ras Clark. He's done a great video showcasing what he thinks Ark 2 could be like, what it could have. I don't agree with all of it, but it's definitely a good video to watch while you're also getting hyped for the announcement today and whatever else we see. If it isn't any of this stuff, maybe it's just a TV reveal, maybe they're going to be doing an anime of Ark. You never know, guys. The devs have got previous in hyping us up and stringing us along, and it turns out it wasn't whatever we thought it was in the past. So yeah, I will be excited for Ark one day. I'll be live streaming it tonight with Ras Clark. We'll be going over what we think, and whatever gets announced, it can't be as bad as Atlas ended up being, can it? Can it? I'll see you ratbags later.
Da